A CEO stood frozen in disbelief. The same man who once gave her his jacket on a freezing night was now the reason an entire town was thriving again. She looked out across the factory floor, hundreds of people working, laughing, and rebuilding their lives all because of him. But months earlier, Liam Cole was nobody's hero. He was just a tired mechanic trying to survive. The clang of wrenches and the low hum of engines filled the small-town garage where Liam worked from dawn till dusk. At 29, his hands were calloused, his back ached, and the smell of oil clung to his clothes. Yet behind the fatigue lived a quiet resilience. Every day, he fixed broken cars for strangers while his own sat motionless in his driveway. That Liam's life had shrunk to a rhythm of survival. Since his parents' passing, he'd become both brother and parent to his teenage sister, Sophie. She was smart, bright enough to dream of college, but tuition felt like a fantasy when bills piled up and the lights flickered each month from overdue payments. Still, Liam never complained. He found small joys in the sound of Sophie's laughter, in a warm cup of instant coffee before his shift, in the belief that kindness, no matter how small, always meant something. It was the one thing he still had faith in. That faith was about to be tested. It was the coldest night of the year. A biting wind swept through the nearly deserted streets, carrying the metallic scent of snow. Streetlights buzzed weakly over the cracked sidewalk where Liam stood, waiting for the last bus. His jacket, worn thin from years of use, was barely enough against the chill, but it was all he had. A woman sat down at the other end of the bench. Her coat looked elegant but paper-thin, her hands trembling as she tried to rub warmth into her fingers. She seemed out of place in this town, her posture too graceful, her shoes too clean for these slushy streets. Liam glanced over. She looked miserable, trying to hide her shivers. He hesitated for a moment, then made a quiet decision. Without a word, he slipped off his jacket and gently draped it over her shoulders. Her eyes widened. "Oh no, I can't take this," she stammered. "You can," Liam said with a small smile. "Just promise you'll stay warm." She opened her mouth to respond, but the bus pulled up with a screech. Before she could thank him, he gestured for her to board first. The doors closed behind her, and just like that, she was gone. His only jacket riding away into the icy night. As Liam trudged home, wind cutting through his thin shirt, he couldn't shake the feeling that he'd done the right thing. There was a peace in that choice, a warmth that no coat could replace. He had no idea that the woman on that bus, Maya Lin, a newly appointed CEO, scouting the struggling town for her company's next investment, was about to change everything. That one quiet act of compassion would set off a chain reaction that would not only transform Liam's life, but breathe new hope into an entire community. Before we continue with this incredible journey, I spent countless hours researching and crafting this story to bring you something truly meaningful. If stories like this touch your heart, and you want to see more acts of kindness that restore faith in humanity, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. It really helps these stories reach others who need to hear them. Now, let's see what happens next. Have you ever witnessed an act of kindness that completely changed your perspective? Share your story in the comments below. 3 days passed since that freezing night at the bus stop. Liam had almost forgotten about it until a sleek black sedan pulled up in front of the garage where he worked. Out stepped the same woman, though this time she wasn't shivering in the cold. She wore a tailored navy coat, confidence radiating from her posture. Her eyes scanned the workshop until they found him, Liam, wiping grease from his hands, surprised to see her again. "You probably don't remember me," she began, smiling softly. "I never got the chance to return this." She held out the jacket, freshly cleaned and neatly folded. Liam blinked, half embarrassed, half shocked. "You didn't have to do that," he said, taking it hesitantly. "I did," she replied. "It wasn't just a jacket. It was kindness. And I needed that more than warmth that night." Her name was Maya Lin, and she had recently taken over as the new CEO of Northwind Tech, a company hoping to expand operations in the area. What she didn't tell him just yet was that she had been in town that night incognito, trying to understand the people, the struggles, and the spirit of the community she wanted to invest in. As they spoke, Maya noticed the quiet dignity in Liam's tone, the way he stood, the way he spoke about his sister, and the pride he took in work most people overlooked. She saw more than a mechanic. She saw a man who still believed in decency, when the world gave him little reason to, before she left. Maya looked around the dimly lit garage and said thoughtfully, "You fix cars, but I think you fix something more than that." Liam chuckled, "Just doing what I can." That small exchange left them both changed in subtle ways. For Maya, it was a reminder of humanity beyond boardrooms and budgets. For Liam, it was a flicker of hope that maybe good deeds didn't vanish. They echoed as she drove away. Maya glanced in her rearview mirror, watching Liam return to work. For reasons she couldn't explain, she made a quiet promise to herself. I'm not done with his story, and she wouldn't be. Over the next few weeks, Maya found herself returning to that small garage more often than she intended. At first, it was under the pretense of checking on her care or dropping by for a tune-up, but soon, it became something else entirely. She was drawn to the way Liam treated people with patience, respect, and a quiet integrity that seemed rare. She began asking questions about his work, the town, the people. Liam, shy at first, eventually opened up. He told her about the layoffs, how the old factory's closure had drained the town's life, how young people like his sister dreamed of leaving because hope felt like a luxury no one could afford. Maya listened, deeply moved. In boardrooms, she'd read reports and statistics about economic decline, but hearing it from Liam made it real personal. He wasn't just fixing cars. He was holding the spirit of a fading community together, one small act at a time. One afternoon, as Liam was locking up the shop, Maya stopped him. "What if," she began carefully, "there was a way to bring jobs back here, real jobs that could change everything?" Liam gave a tired laugh. "Ma'am, we've heard that promise before. Big companies come, they take what they want, then they leave. But what if I told you I could make it happen differently?" She said, "No press, no headlines. Just rebuilding from the ground up with people like you leading the way." Liam stared at her, confused. "You talk like you own a company." She smiled. "Maybe I do." That's when the truth came out. Maya Lin wasn't just visiting town. She was the CEO, the one everyone had been talking about. And she wanted Liam's help to understand how to rebuild the factory in a way that actually worked for the people. At first, Liam was stunned, then doubtful. Why would someone like her care? But as she explained her plan to retrain local workers, reopen the plant, and create opportunities for youth, his skepticism began to fade. Hope crept in where despair had lived for years. Not everyone shared that optimism. Some townsfolk whispered that Maya's offer was too good to be true. Others thought Liam was being used. Even Sophie worried. "People like her don't help people like us for free," she warned. Liam didn't know what to believe, but something in Maya's eyes told him this was different. Still, part of him feared that trusting her could cost him everything, and soon, that fear would be tested. Have you ever had to overcome obstacles to help someone you cared about? What challenges did you face and what did you learn from them? Share your experience below. I'd love to hear your story. The next few months tested everything Liam and Maya believed in. The plan to reopen the old Northwind factory was underway, but not without resistance. Investors pulled out. Local officials doubted the idea. Rumors spread that Maya's project was just a publicity stunt. And when equipment delays stalled construction, workers began losing faith. Liam, caught between his town and Maya, found himself in the middle of a storm. People who once respected him now muttered that he'd sold out. He started questioning whether he'd made a terrible mistake trusting her. One night, exhausted and discouraged, he found Maya alone at the half-built site, sitting on a stack of lumber in the dark. She looked different, tired, human, vulnerable. "I thought I could fix this place," she whispered. "But maybe I was wrong." Liam took a slow breath. "You weren't wrong," he said softly. "You just forgot why you started." She looked at him, puzzled. "That night at the bus stop," he continued, "you didn't see a broken town. You saw people worth saving. Don't let them make you forget that." Maya smiled faintly. "And what about you, Liam? You still believe in this?" He nodded. "I have to. Because if I stop believing, then all the people counting on us, they lose hope, too." That moment reignited something in both of them. Over the next few weeks, Maya doubled down, personally investing in the project when investors backed out. Liam rallied local workers, volunteering overtime to keep construction going. Sophie organized community fundraisers. Slowly, the town began to change. Walls went up. Machines roared back to life. Hope returned. The day the factory officially reopened, hundreds gathered outside: workers, families, children. Maya stood on stage beside Liam, her voice steady but emotional. "This isn't my success," she said. "It's ours. Because one man's kindness reminded me that leadership isn't about power, it's about people." Applause echoed across the crowd. Tears filled Liam's eyes. Months ago, he'd given away his only jacket. Now, he stood in the warmth of a community reborn because of that single ACT'd AS. The camera panned across the cheering crowd. One could see Liam now, a lead supervisor helping a young worker adjust her gloves before her first shift. The same way he once offered warmth to a stranger, he now offered opportunity to others. The ripple had become a wave. 2 years later, the once abandoned industrial district of Riverton buzzed with new life. The old Northwind factory, once a symbol of loss, had become the heart of the community again. Inside the renovated building, sunlight streamed through tall windows, glinting off machines and the proud faces of hundreds of workers. The factory now produced sustainable automotive parts, employing not just locals, but training programs for youth, single parents, and veterans. At the center of it all was Liam Cole, now the operations manager. His once oil-stained hands now guided others, his leadership grounded not in authority, but empathy. He never forgot where he came from. Every Friday, he left his office to work the floor beside his crew, sharing stories, laughter, and hope. And across the hall, Maya Lin continued to lead, not from a distance but by example. She had made Riverton her second home, often visiting schools, mentoring young entrepreneurs, and reminding people that success means little unless it lifts others too. Their friendship became legendary in town lore. The mechanic who gave away his jacket, and the CEO who gave him and everyone else a future. But the ripple didn't stop there. Inspired by Liam's humility, the town started an annual tradition called the Warmth Project. Every winter, residents left coats, scarves, and blankets at bus stops for anyone in need, no questions asked. A single gesture had become a movement of compassion. One snowy evening, Liam stood by that same bus stop where it all began. The city lights shimmered in the distance. A young man nearby looked cold and uncertain, waiting for the last bus. Without hesitation, Liam removed his scarf and handed it to him. "Here," he said with a smile. "Stay warm." The young man blinked in surprise. "Are you sure?" Liam nodded. "Absolutely. Someone once did the same for me." And as the bus pulled up, the camera lingered on that moment. A full circle of kindness, quiet and profound. Kindness doesn't always make headlines. It doesn't always come from those with power or wealth. Sometimes, it begins with an ordinary person who simply chooses to care. One gesture, one decision, can set off ripples that reach farther than we can imagine, because every act of compassion plants the seed of hope, and hope can rebuild a world. Stories like this remind us that extraordinary kindness exists all around us. If this touched your heart, please like this video. It helps more people discover these stories of humanity. Subscribe for more inspiring tales that restore faith in the goodness within us all. And most importantly, look for your moment. Be someone's unexpected blessing. What act of kindness will you perform this week? Share your promise in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and remember, you have the power to change someone's entire world.